Welcome back to the Bank Pension Updation Deep Dive. Today, we're really trying to cut through some of the dense and complex legal noise surrounding a plethora of retirement lawsuits, pension security, and retiree dignity currently before the Supreme Court for final judgment. I'm Priya Chakraborty, and my co host is Anil Agrawal.
We're talking here about retirement justice for millions of public sector employees and their families. Our goal today is to present retirees and bank unions a comparative case tracker which contains the 6 cases that are most likely to weigh on the minds of Supreme Court justices as they deliberate what is likely to be a costly landmark judgment in favor of retirees.
So, if you're trying to keep track of these huge shifts in Indian pension rights, following court judgments from LIC, then SB, PNB, MC Singla, etc., it can feel almost impossible due to absence of central tracker or ready reckoner to give a 100 feet helicopter view to any party interested in the precedents, current status, and potential outcome of the various ongoing cases at the Supreme Court.
So we are here to give you the precise briefing you need.
That's exactly right. Our mission, really, in this deep dive is to distill the core knowledge you need into easily digestible factoids covering such areas as each case's core demands, legal grounds, judicial outcome, and so forth.
Correct. We are talking the essential cases, the strongest legal arguments, and importantly, the current battlegrounds.
All surrounding pension updation and Dearness relief parity.
And we're looking at the major cases: LIC, the Reserve Bank of India, State Bank of India, PNB, M.C Singla, etc.
The big ones.
And we're focusing specifically on the legal status right now, as of November 2025.
Okay, so let's start with the central conflict because getting the terms right, I think, grounds the whole fight. If you retired, say, 10, 15, even 20 years ago, what's the single biggest fear driving all this litigation?
Well, it's inflation, isn't it?
It has to be that quiet, relentless erosion of your lifetime pension and savings.
That is precisely the fear, and the legal remedy retirees are pushing for is called pension updation.
Okay,
Think of it like this. Active employees get a wage hike, maybe through a bipartite or BPS wage settlement, right? Their pay scale gets revised.
yep.
Pension updation demands that pensions for existing retirees get revised too, aligned with those new wage settlements.
Okay,
It's basically trying to ensure that someone who retired back in, say, 2005 isn't stuck getting a pension based on 2005's money value.
right. That makes perfect sense. It's a fight against your money just becoming worthless over time. And the second key term, DR parity, what's the issue there?
So DR is dearness relief. Think of it as a cost of living adjustment meant to offset inflation.
Okay,
Parity just means fairness, equal treatment with other public sector employees like those at the Reserve Bank of India. If one group of retirees gets a certain DR rate, others are demanding the same rate. It often comes down to a constitutional challenge, really: equality.
Okay, leaving fairness aside for a second, it makes no legal sense for a public sector employee in Delhi working for RBI to be treated differently from another in Chandigarh working for PNB. The law must apply to all equally, otherwise, it should apply to none. That gives us the vocabulary.
Yeah, the core strategy across the board is pretty unified. The Union of India Constitution is not an a la carte menu, where employers and the government can pick and choose which constitutional laws to obey and which ones to ignore. It's either or, all or nothing. Retirees want universal pension updation, and they want the gaps in dearness relief closed out. Often, they're targeting retirees from before 1993, or trying to fix denials that started around 2002.
And they're arguing these aren't just financially painful but actually unconstitutional.
Exactly. That's the crux of it.
And the main weapon here is the Constitution itself. You mentioned Articles 14 for equality, 16 for public employment, and Article 21, the right to a dignified life. How does a shrinking pension predicated on discriminatory practice connect to dignity, equality, and the right to life?
Well, The bedrock legal argument is this principle of pension as a deferred wage. Idea goes way back in Indian law, often linked to the landmark Nakara case principles.
Okay,
Let's dig into the foundation of the retirees' case then, and the legal firepower they're bringing.
the argument is quite simple. A pension isn't some gift or charity from the employer. It's compensation you earn during your service, just paid out later, deferred until retirement.
So if the institution then lets the real value of that earned deferred compensation just wither away by refusing updation, they argue it actually deprives retirees of the dignity Article 21 guarantees.
That's a powerful constitutional argument. It's hard to argue against dignity. So, what's the official pushback? Do the banks, SBI, PNB, the IBA just say we can't afford it, or is there a real legal defense?
Well, they don't typically frame it as can't afford it in court. Their defense is more about policy and statutory interpretation. They often deny any legal or statutory obligation to update pensions.
Oh,
They'll point to things like internal agreements, maybe the 2015 recorded note from wage talks, arguing that updation is really an internal policy thing, something subject to negotiation, needing specific approval, not an automatic right.
so it's not a right, it's a maybe depending on policy.
That's their stance. And LIC, remember, way back in 2001, when their board first recommended revision, they did initially mention financial strain.
Okay, so the battle lines are drawn: constitutional right versus institutional policy discretion. Let's look at where the retirees have already scored some major national legal wins. These benchmarks set by LIC and RBI seem critical.
Absolutely. The LIC case, Civil Appeal 3465-2024, that's really the gold standard victory right now. And the background is, well, frankly, maddening. The LIC board recommended revision way back in 2001.
2001?
Yes, but the government just failed to approve it for over 20 years. That huge delay itself became a big issue in the case.
And when the Supreme Court finally ruled, it wasn't just a win, was it? It felt like a mandate.
Oh, absolutely. The Supreme Court ruling was definitive, forceful. They didn't just say the pensioners were right. They ordered LIC and the Government of India to implement full updation.
Yeah,
And they gave them a deadline, 6 months.
6 months after 20 years.
Exactly. Full compliance was due by November 2024. This ruling is a game changer for every other public sector body fighting this, because it sets a clear binding national precedent. Enforceable pension parity based on constitutional grounds, overriding administrative foot dragging.
That's a hard judicial standard. Now let's pivot to the other key national model, the RBI retirees versus Union of India case from a 2019 Supreme Court ruling. What's interesting here, you said, is it's seen more as an administrative benchmark.
That's the key difference, yeah. The Supreme Court did uphold the retirees' rights in principle, but RBI, after the petition, actually complied voluntarily proactively. They brought in partial updation using a 6-slab alignment system.
So they didn't wait to be forced by a final order.
No, and that's why advocates in the banking sector often point to RBI as the model administrative approach. The argument is basically, look, if the central bank can figure out a complex actuarial solution and implement it, why can't nationalized commercial banks?
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so we have the judicial hammer from LIC and the good example model from RBI. But now we get into the messy part, the current conflict zones, the nationalized banking sector, specifically SBI and PNB.
Right. This is where things are still very much in flux. The State Bank of India case, though, offers a pretty strong regional victory for the retirees. This came out of the Rajasthan High Court in 2023.
And this ruling is being used nationally now?
Unions are definitely leveraging it. It provides important regional legal weight.
And the Rajasthan High Court was quite direct, wasn't it? Calling pension updation a legal duty, not just policy, but a duty.
Yes, very emphatic. They said it rises from both the employment contract and constitutional obligations, which directly counters the bank's line that It's just a discretionary policy decision.
So it hit their main argument head on.
Exactly. It's a strong signal from a high court, telling SBI and the government to look at a parity model, even referencing the RBI approach. Implementation is still pending further action, of course, but it gives significant legal momentum across the PSB sector.
Okay, but then we hit the confusion at Punjab National Bank, PNB, because here the courts seem to be saying different things, two conflicting high court rulings.
Yes, and this creates real judicial uncertainty. On one side, you have a more, let's say, progressive guidance from the Delhi High Court in 2024 in the PNB retirees case.
What did they say?
The Delhi HC didn't order updation straight away, but it directed PNB, the IBA, and the Department of Financial Services to set up an actuarial committee.
To study it properly.
Exactly, to study the financial and demographic implications. This signals the court takes it seriously, moving beyond just a flat policy denial. It's asking for data.
Okay, that sounds like progress, but then there's the other ruling, the one the banks prefer from the Chandigarh High Court.
Right, the AIBRF case, and that petition was dismissed completely. The Chandigarh court took a very different view.
How so?
They held that the key pension regulation, Regulation 56, is non-self-executing.
Wait, non-self-executing? Does that just mean, yeah, the rule exists, but we still need to hold a meeting and decide if we feel like paying you? It's back to being a policy choice.
That's pretty much it. The court essentially said, Regulation 56 doesn't automatically grant a right to updation. It needs a separate administrative trigger. And they went even further, stating pension updation is not a statutory right.
Wow, really?
This is a very conservative interpretation, obviously damaging to the retirees' cause, and banks actively use this ruling to justify denying any legal obligation. It creates this stark regional split in judicial thinking.
Hold on. So if I'm a retiree from a nationalized bank, I'm looking at the Supreme Court telling LIC, pay up now. I see RBI doing it voluntarily. I see one high court saying it's a legal duty for SBI. But for PNB, one court says, let's study it, and another says, nope, no right exists.
That's the confusing picture right now.
That's more than confusing. It's legal whiplash. This kind of inconsistency just screams out for a final ruling from the top court, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And that brings us to the final really critical piece of this puzzle, the key harmonizing case. It's M.C. Singla versus PNB and the Union of India, currently pending as special leave petition before the Supreme Court.
Okay. So this Singla case, this is the big one, the lead case trying to get universal updation for the whole nationalized banking sector.
That's the goal, yes. It specifically seeks parity for those pre-1993 retirees, aiming to align them with RBI and central government schemes.
And the timing, where does it stand?
Crucially, arguments in this SLP just wrapped up October 9, 2025. The judgment is reserved.
Reserved? Any sense of when?
The general expectation is possibly around December 2025. And connecting this back to the bigger picture, the outcome here is pivotal. It's at a judicial crossroads.
How so?
Well, a favorable ruling in Singla could effectively overturn those limiting conservative views, like the AIBRF judgment from Chandigarh.
Yeah.
And it could solidify and extend the powerful constitutional arguments that won the LIC case them across the entire nationalized banking sector. It could finally create a single, unified, binding case law.
This has been a really fascinating dive into where institutional policy clashes with fundamental constitutional rights. So, to quickly summarize the key takeaways for you, the listener, this whole battle really hinges on interpreting constitutional equality articles 14 and 21 against institutional claims about either financial constraints or just a lack of explicit statutory duty.
That's the core tension.
And that LIC case where the Supreme Court mandated action within 6 months, that currently stands as the strongest judicial precedent. Backing the retirees, it sets a very high national standard.
Definitely the strongest precedent so far. And that leads us to the final thought we want to leave you with today to really mull over. If the Supreme Court does rule favorably in the M.C Singla case, and given the LIC precedent, it seems quite plausible, confirming updation as a universal legal obligation grounded in the Constitution.
Just think how fundamentally and how immediately that judgment will shift the entire PSB's planning and negotiation stance of the powerful Indian Banks Association. We're talking about future wage settlements across the whole nationalized banking sector.
Exactly. It could permanently redraw the lines of power in all future negotiations between banks and their employees and retirees. It potentially reopens the parity debate for everyone. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.